This is Group 5. My name is Walvins. We're going to do our presentation on NFC chart for Android. First of all, we're going to talk about the project summary. NFC is defined as a near-field communication technology. This short range wireless communication up to 4 centimeters. It provides secure communication in mobile phones that we use daily for electronic payment or exchange of data such as image or file. For communication purposes, users of this device with an NFC application can simply touch the device to easily exchange data. In this project, we will develop codes to program our Android phone with the embedded NFC chip, and we will demonstrate the benefit of using this technology as well as its disadvantage for the users. Let's talk about the application, NFC application. The NFC application lets smartphone connect to other NFC devices, including card, terminals, and other phones. And NFC apps help us to share data just by touching phones together. The NFC tags have infinite users that will make your life easier. How? Just wake up in the morning, sleep as enjoy app, put your phone in driving mode, and then let your friends instantly connect to Wi-Fi without having to find your password. And then let's talk about the intended process. The app checks if phones are enabled for NFC. Both parties have to turn on NFC in the phones. And then person A types messages or choose a contact or photo on the end. Connect phones together by holding them next to each other. This is the way you can share data. So data is sent through NFC connection to person B's phone, and then person B receives the messages. The basic requirements to check before main activities. First of all, phone must be enabled for NFC, and apps must be enabled to use phone's hardware and API. And then app must detect when NFC enabled devices is nearby. When users send messages, app must include it in list of sent received messages no matter what kind of data it is. User flow. To configure NFC, the user should make sure the tablet or the iPhone have NFC feature capabilities by checking the back. So you should see the NFC device logo in the back of your phone. The NFC chip must be enabled to be able to share data as well. Go to the setting menu and then press more. After you press more, you should see NFC data exchange when the phone touches another device. So we're gonna Mita gonna talk about the codes and then to explain us how the codes work. Mita is yours right now.
Thank you, Elvin. So I'm going to talk about the chat and the file transfer function is going to be talked about by Mayank later. So when we were creating the chat function, we had to extend the onCreate method from the superclass activity. So onCreate, the saved instance state checks if NFC is enabled on our phone, initializes the address created in activity main.xml, and starts the intent for our app, which is to connect via NFC and then send messages back and forth. Now, when you send a message via NFC, your phone places it on the NFC chip in that phone, which the second phone can see through its connection. And the opposite is also true. When you receive a message via NFC, the sending phone is putting information on its NFC chip, which your phone can then see through the same connection. Okay, so we have a little bit of the code from our onCreate method, as well as some of the code that we use to send messages back and forth. So first, as I said earlier, we have to call the parent class using the super saved word. And then we check if NFC is enabled on the phone that is using the app. So we use a variable called MNFC adapter, which will access the NFC chip in our phone. And then you can use different methods on MNFC adapter to either place data onto it or receive data from it. Now, then next, the program initializes text boxes and buttons from the XML file, which will hold the data that's going back and forth between the phones. And finally, it updates the view that the user will see. So they don't see the back end of this app, they only see the text boxes that are containing the messages that were sent back and forth. So first, we are creating a message that we're going to be putting on the NFC chip for discovery by the second phone. So this method will be called whenever another NFC-capable device is detected and when you enter text into the app in the first place to be sent. So first, you check if there are messages to be sent using the messages to send array. And if there are not, then do nothing. Next, we will create a list of messages that we want to send using the create records method, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. And finally, it sends elements in messages to send array via NFC using an NDEF message object for pickup by the second device. So Android has created a lot of NFC variables for programmers to use and manipulate their own NFC chips by. NDEF message is one of them. I'm going to talk about some more of them as the presentation goes on. So the create records method will create a list array of messages that we want to send to a second device. The records array must have one more index than messages to send array so that the last element can hold the package name, which will tell the second device that we're sending to where this information came from. It's also important for the API of the phone that's using the app to be high enough that we can use the create my method, which will take the text that we entered and turn it into bytes to be sent on the NFC connection. So in our build.gradle file, we have set the min SDK version at 19, which means that we must have a certain Android version to run this app, and if that version is not present on the phone, the app will just not download. So for every message we want to send, we pass the bytes of that message to a record object that will be inserted into NDEF record array for return. Once the second NFC device is discovered, we can also start receiving messages. So the method getParcelableArrayExtra gets any type of data in extra NDEF messages variable, which is basically a variable that stores information that was extended to you from the second NFC chip. Meaning if person B has this app and sent us information, it will be stored in extra NDEF messages. Then if there are discoverable objects in the NFC connection, we convert them into strings because they are messages, and we add them to messages received array. Then we assign all the records from the second phone's NFC chip to attached record variables for traversal. Finally, we get every valid message sent from the second phone using each NDEF record's getPayload method, and we add it to messages received array. The messages received array will hold all the messages that were received from the second phone. And finally, we update the sent and received view so that the user can see all the messages that their friends sent them on the phone. Now, once you are familiar with Android programming, adding functionality for image and contact files in addition to just sending the text messages, is easy. So we have here some screenshots of our app and the images that we were able to receive using the NFC connection. The first is an image that was sent, and the second is a contact file. And the third is the text message that we just talked about previously. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mayank so that he can tell you more about sending a contact and a image file.
Thank you, Madhumita. So how to send a contact? First of all, we need to check that we have a contact that we need to send or not. If the user taps the Add Contact button on the home screen, open that contact menu and get the result. Then create a list of contacts we want to send using Create Records method. Then create a new NDEF message, which Madhumita talked about, with the contact file to place it on NFC chip for pickup by the second device. Records array must have one more index than contacts to send array, so that last element can hold the package name. For every contact file we want to send, pass them to a record object that will be inserted into NDEF record for return. Similarly, how to send an image? First of all, check if there are contacts to send the image or not. If there is, then the user taps the Add Contact button on the home screen. Open Contact menu and get the result. Create a list of contacts we want to send using Create Records method. Create a new NDEF message with contact file to place it on NFC chip for pickup by the second device. Records array must have one or more index than the contacts to send array, so that last element can hold the package name. For every contact file we want to send, pass them to a record object that will be inserted into NDEF record for return. Now, sending an images to NFC devices via an Android beam. To send photos to NFC devices, you first have to open the image from the sending device, that is your own device. Then place your sending device against the back of the other person's device, let's say receiving device. Now both the device will vibrate and they will make a sound, and this will indicate that the contact between the two devices has been made. The image thumbnail will display in the center of the receiving device with the word touch to beam on top. Now tap the screen to transmit the image from your own device, and don't separate the devices before beaming. The receiving device will receive a notification that says incoming beam. The conclusion. This app is an extremely bare bones version of Android Beam, an existing feature of many Android phones. The advantage of using Android Beam is that it provides a quick and an easy way to transfer data directly to another device without having to download it to a cloud platforms. The disadvantage is that the device you are transmitting must have an NFC sensor and it must be close to you. Android Beam works on all Android phones and it sends things faster than ours. And DIY model. So that's about it for the presentation. Thank you guys for listening.